Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Akanksha Bhusari. I am an AI specialist for startups in North America. And if you're like me, you have been amazed by the leap in AI generated images and videos in the industry today. But how do you really go from a simple idea to a fully implemented, scalable video generation workflow? And so that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And we will be doing that using a couple of different tools. The first one being Vertex AI Studio, which sits within Google Cloud. And then we'll also go through a different UI that you can build and deploy on your own called Vertex AI Creative Studio. I'll also hop in the console today, give you all a little bit of a demo of the kind of workflows that you can be executing using Google's generative media tools today. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So I'm going to start by really talking about the core of it all, and that is prompt engineering or prompt design. And when it comes to Veo, there are quite a few of best practices to keep in mind. Generating video is a very complex process, especially when there's audio involved, there's different camera movements, scene staging that needs to happen. So really how you prompt a model like Veo is going to be key here. So a couple of best practices to get started. You really want to be as clear in your language as possible. Sometimes, as artists and as creatives, or even as developers, we tend to write a lot of fluff to give more detail. And while detail is really important, if there are clear words to really understand a vision, be as clear in your language as you can. The next one sort of goes hand in hand. You want to be clear, but you also want to be very detailed. So think concise words, very descriptive adjectives, but describe your scene or your shot in as much detail as possible. The next one is Veo at this current time generates 8-second videos. And so there's only so much that can happen in 8 seconds effectively. So don't try to, implement your entire story with one prompt and one video generation workstream. Go one scene at a time. And that's really how you're going to have the best experience. And those videos can always be stitched together at the end. And iteration is key here. The first time you generate a video, it's not going to be exact. You're going to understand where maybe the model made decisions that you didn't like, and you want to include more detail about that in the prompt. And experimentation is going to be huge. It's going to take a couple tries to really get the exact perfect take you want, so don't get discouraged. So I'm going to break down what I like to call the anatomy of a Veo prompt. And this really consists of 5 to 6 different components, whether or not you're using audio: subject, action, the scene or context, the camera angles, and the camera movements. And so here's an example of a Veo prompt, and you'll see how the things like composition, subject, camera motion, ambiance is all included within the Veo prompt here. So you'll see this prompt is a close-up shot of melting icicles on a frozen rock wall with cool blue tones, zoomed in, maintaining close-up detail of the water drips. So you'll see that all the sort of components of a Veo prompt are included here. And the main sort of action is included in the middle of the prompt. So almost like a sandwich method, where you want to start with the composition and the subject and maybe end with some notes about ambiance and camera motion, with the main action or the main core of the video, in the middle of that prompt itself. So if we break that down, we'll look at subject. Subject is who or what is happening in your video, and specificity is really important here. So here's a couple of examples where, a very generic prompt was given and then a more detailed prompt was given. So you'll see with the person, you get a person, really no details about what's happening. This could be very random. When you get into more detail about the subject you want, the model is going to execute that to a T. And so you'll see here, really high quality video, and it was able to adhere to the hand knitted blue shawl, the elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Now, if we go into the action, so this is sort of the core of the movement that's happening in your video. So describe those movements, if there's any interactions happening, even things like subtle expressions can really help you get the video that you're looking for. So a couple of examples here. You will get what you want with a very basic prompt, but you will get something better the more you try. So this is a bird flying, but we don't know what type of bird it is. We don't know what the ambiance of the shot is. We don't know anything like that. So adding terms like effortless power and stretched wide and the specific bird that we're looking for is going to get us more accuracy. So you'll really see that the video completely changed by adding even a few more details about what we really want to happen in the video itself. Scene and context. So this is the environment that the video is taking place in. And this is really key because it's going to establish the mood for the video. Having a bird flying, at night in a scary forest is a very different mood than a bird flying across the beach. So really setting the stage for what the context in the scene is can give you those atmospheric details that you're looking for. Couple of examples here. You'll see Veo is going to make a lot of assumptions when we give it a very generic and a very small limited prompt. But as soon as we add details like Scandinavian style, fresh tulips on the counter, it's a quiet morning, the aesthetic of the video and how well it adheres to the prompt is really going to change the output that you get. This one's really fun. So camera angle for all the creatives out there that are also developers looking to create this. This can really determine what the shot looks like. So lots of different camera pushes like close up, high angle, a drone shot, over the shoulder, anything like that can determine what the setup of your video looks like. So an example of an extreme close up, you'll get something like that. Maybe it'll look like it's a macro lens from a camera. And then when you ask for a bird, you'll get a different experience. So camera angle can really help set the stage in addition to those environmental prompts that we were talking about earlier. And this one's also big. Camera movement, if you want a dynamic level to the camera angle that you're looking for, maybe it's a pan from left to right, starting zoomed in and then getting more zoomed down. Anything like that, the more detail that you can add, the more accurate your videos are going to be to the vision. So here we have a drone shot. And then a tracking shot. And so some technical terms like this can be really helpful, and Veo actually responds really well to sort of production-related technical terminology to really understand what the scene should look like, what the end result should really look like. And audio is something that is unique to Veo in the industry today. While generating a video, you can generate audio at the same time. And so doing this, you can, provide little to no context about the audio and get something called ambient noise, or you can actually include the dialogue that you want to be spoken by the characters in the prompt itself, and Veo has the ability to do both. So here you'll see there's just ambient city noise in the background of the elderly man that's sitting here. And then here we've given it very specific dialogue that it adheres to.
Your story has holes. I'm telling you everything I know.
And in addition to the dialogue, Veo is able to add the ambient noise as well. And so the next thing that I really want to talk about is the workflow when you think about implementing something like this. Veo is really not a tool that should be used on its own. We have Gemini to help you with your prompts. We have Imagen and Gemini 2.5 Flash Image, also known as Nano Banana if you've heard of it today. And that can really help you with generating images that can be used as reference in Veo, or that can be used as the starting and the ending frame in Veo as well. So really creating a workflow like that is key. And I'll hop into the console right after this to show you an example of a workflow like that. And then right after that, we'll hop into some code to show you how you can actually deploy an application like this in order to do this systematically. Okay, so we just went over some Veo prompting best practices, and now we're going to hop into the console. And so here I am in Vertex AI Studio. You can navigate here by the hamburger menu on the left, going to Vertex AI, and then clicking on Vertex AI Studio. So once we're in the studio, you're going to have access to all of our different generative media models. And I'm going to start with the one that is the talk of the town, Nano Banana. And so this is technically Gemini 2.5 Flash image, is the official name of the model. And what you can really do here is you can generate any images, you can edit images together, you can add multiple images as reference images, anything like that. So I am going to show you an example of some images I generated of a red sundress and the headshot of a model. So this is for an application. Maybe you want to get some marketing materials for a garment of clothing or anything like that. So I'm going to add these images. And so you'll see I added a picture of a red sundress on a beach, and I added just a headshot of a model. And I'm going to tell Nano Banana to have the model is wearing the red sundress. The dress comes up to her knees in length, and she is standing on the beach. So super basic natural language prompting over here. I'm gonna have Nano Banana combine these images to have the model wearing the sundress. Okay, so we'll see that Nano Banana was able to give us a beautiful picture of the model. It really kept the character consistency here. It looks like the same person, and you'll see it kept the product consistency as well. So this sundress looks exactly like the sundress that we provided. It didn't hallucinate, it didn't change the color, add anything like that. But if it does, what's great about Nano Banana is that you can continue using natural language to edit this image in any way that you want. But I'm pretty happy with this image, so I would like to generate a video from it. But before I do that, I want my video to be in landscape format. And so I'm going to take this image, I'm going to download it. And I'm going to take it to Imagen. So if you click the Generate Media button on the left, this will take you to all of our different generative media models that you can access within Vertex AI Studio. So I'm going to go to Imagen here that has a variety of different tools, but the one that we're going to be using here is called Outpainting. So I'm going to upload this image of the model wearing the dress that we just generated, and I'm going to outpaint. And I'm going to outpaint to a landscape size image, center this image. I'm going to say I want a natural background. So, I just want the image to be extended with a beach in the background. So I'm going to do that using Imagen. Okay, so you'll see we got a couple of images here with the background extended. We can add more nuance into we want there to be footprints in the sand throughout the whole thing. But for now, let's use this image in the bottom left corner. A couple things that you can do in Imagen, which is really great, is that you can upscale this image and you can upscale it by a factor of 2x or 4x. So if you are looking to create really high quality images or high quality images to start your videos with, this is a really good feature of Imagen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the image that I like, and I am going to go straight to generate video. This is going to take me directly to the Veo model, and we're going to generate a video. I'm going to click on Veo 3, the image that we want, and we're going to have the reference image added here as the starting frame for this video. And I'm going to give it a prompt of what I want it to do. Okay, so I have my prompt. This is a prompt that I put together with the help of Gemini. I asked it to use things like composition, subject, action, ambiance, context, all of those key VO prompting components we were talking about earlier. And I had it generate a prompt like that. And I am going to see what we get when we upload a video. Awesome. So as you can see, we have 4 different video options that were generated by Veo with this prompt. I also had the generate audio toggle turned on. So we'll see sort of the ambient noise that Veo was able to generate. Let's go to the last one. You can see that Veo did a really good job of adhering to the dress flowing in the breeze. My understanding and my sort of iteration that I would do from here is I would go back and I would want to make sure that the sand looks even throughout the whole image before I go to Veo. Awesome. So Veo overall was able to do a great job. We have the same model. She has movement, but we can tell it's the same person. The dress looks identical in all 4 videos that were generated. Our only sort of iterative loop that we would try to go back and fix would be the sand in the background here. So this was a quick example of a workflow that you can use using Gemini, Nano Banana specifically, Imagen for any upscaling or any outpainting or specific editing that we want to do, and then Veo to create the final product. And we can do things like generate a shot of her here, and then maybe a shot of her wearing the sundress in a different scene, and piece these together to really be able to market or showcase this garment of clothing. And so now I am going to move into a Git repo for what we call Vertex AI Creative Studio, which is a UI sort of application that you can deploy on your own to implement a workflow like this in a more programmatic way if you don't want to use the Google Cloud Console. Okay, so we went over the Veo prompting best practices. We were just in the console talking about the workflow and using different generative AI models together. And this is where things get really exciting. So prototyping and doing that trial and error in the UI in the Google Cloud Console with Vertex AI, as I was just showing you, that is always great. But for real world applications, and in order to do this systematically and programmatically, you need code and you need to, maybe deploy some sort of application in order to have your team and your users do this in a way that's really effective and efficient. And so an example of that is this repo that I'm showing you here, which is called Vertex AI Creative Studio. I want to highlight that this is not the only way to create an application that embeds workflows with the generative media models together. This is simply an example of what you can do. And this is going to differ really depending on your use case. And this code here can be a really great starting point, but any sort of application that works out in the workflow that you're looking for is going to be just fine. And so what I'm going to show you here is, if we just go to the README file, this is an app that highlights the capabilities of the different models within Vertex AI. And so it's built off of a Python-based UI framework. And this is something that you can run locally and that you can deploy in something like Cloud Run, for example, or deploy in any way that makes sense for you and your use case. And so the really fun part of this here is if you click into experiments, you will see different powerful workflows. For example, we have something called Storycraft. which is a storyboard generator. So you give it a narrative, and it's going to generate a sequence of video scenes to sort of fit that overall story. So, the same way that you would storyboard a video that you're trying to generate, maybe, on a whiteboard or something like that. This is a workflow that enables you to generate multiple scenes for a larger story at one time. Another workflow here is the character and item consistency. So let's say you really need to keep a product very, very consistent, and you need to make sure that happens to a more nuanced level than what I just showed you in the demo earlier. That is something that's great here. Let's say you need to keep your branding or your logo very consistent. This is a workflow that can be really great for that. So there are a couple of different combined workflows here, a couple of different prompting techniques that you can use. And then there are some MCP tools to use with Gen Media on here as well. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to hop into sort of the main Python file, just give a quick overview of what's really happening here, so it can be a good springboard point for you to get started and maybe use this repo or create an application like this for your own workflow. So I'm going to click into main.py. And what you'll see here is that there are a couple of main components of what's happening here. And the core components are really the state, which is the application's memory, the UI, which is what the application looks like. And again, we're using a Python-based UI framework for that. The event handler, so really the wiring of what's connecting the buttons of the different actions that are taking place, so the different models that are being called, and then the core logic that, again, is referencing those models. And so you'll see that in the app definition here, you'll see that we have the main app function. It's decorated with the @me.page, which tells the UI framework of what's happening on the web page at this time. And then you'll see the event handlers. These are all the functions that start with on underscore. So you'll see all of that. So you'll see that if we look at what we call the event handlers, or sort of the wiring of the application here, all the functions that start with on underscore something, these are going to sort of execute actions based on what the user clicks in the UI. So when the user clicks the generate button, the UI framework is going to reference the on click generate images function that we defined. And then, when the user picks a different aspect ratio, for example, the framework is going to call on selection change image as the function. So you'll see these functions are sort of the glue of what's really happening, and their job is very simple. It's going to check if the loading state is true, and then it's going to call the core logic function to do the real work. And so that will be done once the loading state is set to false. And so now I'm going to go to the generate images function. And when we go over here, you'll see that these are the functions that really do the heavy lifting. And the most important one to look at here is generate images. So when a user clicks generate, the event handler is going to call this function. It's going to get the user's prompt. It's going to gather all of the style modifiers like cool tone, wide angle that were given to it from the state, and then it's going to add them to the prompt. It's then going to call Vertex AI, the image generation model, and that is going to connect it to Imagen over here. And then it's going to call that model with the final prompt that it puts together. And this is where it takes a second. It's going to call that model, and we're going to wait for the model to generate that image. And when the image is ready, you're going to get the saved images from wherever they were saved in the output, and then the user will see the image in the output over there. And so you'll see we have a couple of bonus features like rewrite prompt over here that is essentially going to enhance the prompt When the user presses this button, it's going to send the prompt to the Gemini model, and it's going to make it more detailed and creative. So things like that. And then after that, the user, while they're interacting with an application like this, I'm going to go back to show you the UI here really quick. They're going to have an experience like this. So they're going to have the different options at the top. They're going to see the different images that were generated or the videos that were generated. And this gives them a really nice way to interact with the workflow that I showed you in Vertex AI in the Cloud Console earlier. So again, this is just an example of an application that can be created for a workflow that makes sense to you. So this Git repo will be linked in the description to this video. Hopefully this video was helpful for you today, and hopefully you are as excited as I am to get started with generative media with Vertex AI and with Google's different models. Thank you so much.